Hi, and welcome to Terry Talks Movies. This time around, I've got the June 2025 releases from Imprint via Vision, and they're fantastic. They're from the 1970s. All 7 of them are 1970s movies, and the 1970s in cinema everywhere was a turning point. It was when things got cranked up to 11 in cinema, in Australia, in England, in America, in Europe. Everything was kind of heightened, and there was a loosening of restrictions on cinema in the 1970s. That's kind of cool. That made it a very, very exciting period to be watching movies, and also a great time to revisit in cinema. So, as I said, we've got 7 movies to talk about this time around. The 2 heavy hitters I'm going to leave to second last because there is a hidden gem in this month's releases that I really want to drill down on, and I'll leave that one for last. But we'll start with one of the great adventure films of the 1970s, which had been in some ways in pre-production since the 1940s. Originally, it was going to star Humphrey Bogart and Clark Gable, and then it was going to be Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas, and then it was going to be Paul Newman and Robert Redford, and then ultimately it was Sean Connery and Michael Caine in John Huston's version of the Rudyard Kipling story, The Man Who Would Be King. Fantastic film. It also stars Christopher Plummer as Rudyard Kipling, directed by John Huston. Fantastic musical score by Maurice Jarre. It is one of the truly great adventure films of the 70s. Connery and Caine play Danny Dravot and Peachy Carnahan, a couple of ex-British Army sergeants who make a decision to take a bunch of rifles and ammunition and conquer a country across the mountains from India called Kafiristan. And they think with 12 rifles and ammunition they can do it because the Kafiristanis are isolated. They're not tech savvy. They decide they're going to take over this country and become kings. And not only do they succeed, but Danny Dravot becomes a god to the Kafiristanis until he doesn't. And therein lies the tale. Beautifully shot in Morocco, and the landscapes are fantastic. The stunt work is great. I don't know whether Connery and Caine have ever been better in their own way than in this movie. There's an incredible final image in this film where Rudyard Kipling comes to understand that the story he's been told is true. Fantastic movie. Rewatchable as hell. Oddly enough, I found a copy of this on DVD about a year ago for $1. But I would much rather this version. It looks fantastic. Fantastic adventure film. So we do have some special features. There is the back, but I'll tell you what the special features are. 1080p high-def presentation, all of them have that. Call It Magic, The Making of the Man Who Would Be King featurette, which I think is from 1975 when the movie came out. The Gentle Giant, an interview with actor Danny Huston, John Huston's son. High Atlas Adventure, an interview with the continuity supervisor Angela Allen, and a theatrical trailer. Inside the slipcase, we've got Connery and Caine there. We have that on the back. And inside, we have the disc, of course. We have the disc. And we have more production photography. This film is fantastic. Tragic and fantastic. It's about hubris. It's about the British Empire. It's about people reaching out for more than they can ever hold. You should see it. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. If you haven't seen it in a while, it might be time to look at it again. So that's the first one. This next one's a very deep cut. A movie produced and directed by Cliff Robertson, written by Cliff Robertson with a couple of collaborators. An independent film called J.W. Coop, where Cliff Robertson plays a rodeo rider who's been in jail and wants to restart his career as a mature man, and goes on the rodeo circuit again. He hooks up with a hippie girl, played by Christine Ferrari, but he's too old for the gig. It's one of those elegiac, modern Western kind of things. A little bit of the same vibe as Lonely of the Brave. Cliff Robertson, obviously this was a passion project for him. Cliff Robertson had a fraught career with Hollywood because he actually sued Hollywood studios who ripped him off and succeeded. But then they wouldn't hire him again because he actually whistle blew on them. There's the front cover. There's the back cover. There aren't any extras on here. I kind of like those modern elegiac westerns as a genre. They can often be very good. This one's a deep hit cut hidden gem. Inside we've got that cover art. There's the back, of course. We have the disc, and we have that. 1970s was the decade of middle-aged men in cinema hooking up with much younger women. It happened a hell of a lot, and this movie is no exception to that. For me, modern westerns are always an interesting genre because they're nostalgic for a time that happened in the 1800s for about 20 years. They're about a certain kind of man who doesn't live a conventional life. But that one's going to be interesting to see. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. I'll read you the blurb from the back just so you get more of a source for it. I'll read you the blurb from the back just so you get a little more of the feel for it. After being released from a 10-year prison sentence, J.W. Coop is determined to win a national radio championship when his turbulent past, exemplified by his disturbed mother, collides with his one shot at a comeback. Coop is confronted with a society that has radically changed since his incarceration. Might be really interesting to watch. His mother, by the way, is played by Geraldine Page. Fantastic actor. Deep cut hidden gem. That one I'm going to check out. I haven't checked it out yet. Then we got another Sean Connery movie from 1975. The Man Who Would Be King's 1975. So is this one. So Connery was hitting very heavily in the 1970s. The Wind of the Lion, based on a script by John Milius, directed by John Milius, who also did Conan the Barbarian, for those of you who are Arnie fans. Well, I'll read you the blurb anyway. Morocco, 1904. A corrupt sultan has granted German troops control over the land, and Raisuli, the last of the Barbary pirates, played by Sean Connery, leads the fight against the occupation in a plot to force the American president to remove the sultan from his throne. Raisuli kidnaps an American widow and her two children. The widow is played by Candice Bergen, and the American president, Theodore Roosevelt, is played by Brian Keith. This is actually based on a true story, but the person kidnapped in the true story was a man, not a woman. And it became an international core celeb. The American president, Theodore Roosevelt, talked about it a lot. It was a big thing in 1904. What will I do first? Okay, we'll do the extras first. Audio commentary by film historians Lee Pfeiffer, Tony Latino, and Paul Scrabo. Audio commentary with the writer-director John Milius, which would be great to listen to. Seen and heard interview with actress Deborah Baxter from 2022. Riding the Lion, interview with actor Simon Harrison from 2022. The Wind and Billy, an interview with the DP Billy Williams, and a behind-the-scenes featurette. So there's your back cover. There's a Scotsman trying to be a Barbary pirate and Candice Bergen. There's the back. You've got to make allowances for this stuff. People playing people that weren't of their own race was a big thing up until the 1990s almost. There is the disc. And there is Sean Connery and Candice Bergen in the movie. Really interesting film. It's one of those John Milius passion projects, like Big Wednesday was. Milius, who was very much an outlier in Hollywood, made projects that he was passionate about and therefore did not make a lot of movies. That one I remember seeing years ago and found it interesting. Locations are fantastic. The politics of the time make it interesting as well, with the American president being as American presidents are, and Brian Keith does a good job playing Theodore Roosevelt. Going to be interesting revisiting that one. Then we've got another deep cut from 1979, so it's late in the 70s, based on a novel by Joseph Wambaugh, who wrote a lot of novels about police stuff and fictionalizing real incidents in the lives of police. Here's the blurb. One night on patrol duty, two police officers are kidnapped by two petty thieves who drives them deeply into the country and leave them in an onion field. One is killed, one is not. It's The Onion Field, which stars James Wood, John Savage, Ronnie Cox, directed by Harold Becker. Interesting film because there's some really heavy-hitting acting in this. John Savage plays a surviving policeman, and he goes through an incredible character arc where he loses confidence in himself. Meanwhile, this very smart criminal, played by James Woods, is in the legal system, in jail, and starts learning how to re-prosecute his case. So it's a very complex film in some ways. The real incident happened in 1963. The extras on this one, audio commentary with director Harold Becker, which is nice to be able to have the directors talking about the film. Ring of Truth, the making of The Onion Field, a featurette from 2002, and a theatrical trailer. Inside you get this very bleak artwork, which I think is the original artwork I saw for this film when it came out. There's your back. There's your disc. And there are the two criminals in court. One played by James Woods. The other one is played by Franklin Searles. By the way, the cop who gets killed in The Onion Field is actually played by Ted Danson. So it's one of those true crime adaptations, much in the same manner as In Cold Blood, which came out 20 years before, 15 years before. But yeah, deep cut American drama wasn't incredibly successful in the box office, but it's been reevaluated a number of times in subsequent years. And it's one of those movies that has a reputation that's escalated over time. Now we get to the heavy hitters, and I mean that literally in the first case. This is the 4K release for this month. Scorsese, De Niro, Raging Bull on 4K in a premium box set. Now, there are a ton of extras on this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the freeze frame thing. So there's the card from the back. Robert De Niro playing Jake LaMotta, the boxer, based on LaMotta's autobiography. Fantastic movie. Scorsese's black and white filming of this is fantastic. Edited by the fantastic Thelma Schoonmaker. Cinematography is by Michael Chapman. Screenplay by Paul Schrader and Martin Martin. Martin Martin was also the screenwriter on the other movie I'm going to talk about in a moment. Really tough film. And the black and white cinematography is fantastic. De Niro goes through a lot of physical changes to play Jake LaMotta, the boxer. The film is brutal, and LaMotta himself is not an unvarnished character. His relationship with his wife, played by Kathy Moriarty, is incredibly problematic in a lot of ways. And because this is a 1970s film from, what year was it? I was wrong. Not all of them from 1970s, because this is from 1980. So scratch what I said about the 1970s at the start of this video. This one's from 1980. And we get 2 discs and a booklet for this one. There's your 4K. Dolby Vision 2160 high def, ultra high def presentation. 4K digital master was approved by Martin Scorsese. Audio commentaries by Scorsese and Thelma Schoonmaker. Audio commentary with the DP Michael Chapman, the producers Irvin Winkler and Robert Chardoff, music director Robbie Robertson, actors John Turturro and Teresa Saldana, cast director Sis Corman, and supervising sound effects editor Frank Warner. Audio commentary with the writers Martin Martin and Paul Schrader, the boxer and author Jake LaMotta, and LaMotta's nephew Jason Lustig in a theatrical trailer. Inside you've got the 4K and you've got the Blu-ray, so you've got it upscalable. That's just the first disc. Second disc has a whole bunch of other special features. And rather than read those out, I'll freeze frame on them. And then on top of that, he said giving you time to read the freeze frame stuff. We get a book as well with the art from the back of the hard box cover. There's an essay in here called No Man Can Endure This, Raging Bull and Martin Scorsese's Resurrection by Bilger Ebiri. So there's an article there. There's Marty Scorsese in 1980. There are production notes with a picture of Jake LaMotta there. And there's Scorsese with De Niro. I'm glad this one got a 4K release here in Australia. A lot of these things skip Australia and you've got to buy them as imports. But a movie as important as Raging Bull, and also important to the oeuvre of Martin Scorsese, I'm glad it's getting a prestige release here. There's the back cover of the hard box. In fact, Imprint have done a number of Scorsese movies lately. They did the Movies of Faith Scorsese box set a few months ago. And this time around we're getting Raging Bull and also New York, New York from the 1970s. I'm sure this is the 1970s, even though I was wrong about Raging Bull. And I'm very rarely wrong about years. That's odd. 1977, New York, New York, a 1940s style musical with a more adult approach, an update on it, starring Liza Minnelli and Robert De Niro. We get 3 discs in this one. Basically, it's the story of post-war band singer played by Liza Minnelli falls in love with a saxophonist played by Robert De Niro, and it's about their relationship in post-war America. It's the kind of movie that Judy Garland would have played rather than Liza Minnelli had it been made 30, 40 years earlier. And one of the things Scorsese has said, he wanted to make a movie for his parents' generation. And New York was this. It was a problematic production. Scorsese, which he has admitted, was a cocaine addict at the time. He was having a relationship with Liza Minnelli during the production, which complicated matters. The Robert De Niro character, to be honest, is a little undercooked. And so De Niro concentrated on learning how to be a saxophonist and playing to that side of the character. Complex film. Here is the director's cut, which is the approved cut Scorsese has given the tick to. And it's about 30 minutes longer than the other cut. The blurb says, Jimmy is a talented saxophonist who prowls post-World War II nightclub floors, sizing up amorous prospects. When he meets Francine Evans, sparks fly, but can their relationship survive Francine's professional success? So it's got a little bit of a Star is Born there, with the James Mason, Judy Garland dynamic to it as well. This disc has, it's 1080p of course, audio commentary by Daniel Kremer, audio commentary by Scorsese and film critic Corey Rickey, introduction by Martin Scorsese, a teaser trailer and a theatrical trailer. Inside we get the disc and Liza Minnelli, and we also have the European theatrical cut of the film. This has got player, piano player, an interview with actor Barry Primus from 2025. He was in the film with them. Momentary departures, movie ballets, musical showstoppers and detours, a video essay by Daniel Kremer, scene-by-scene audio commentary by the cinematographer Laszlo Kovacs, New York Stories, a documentary, Liza on New York, an interview with actress Liza Minnelli, archival interview with Liza Minnelli, archival interview with Martin Scorsese, pre-title card and audio commentary by Daniel Kremer, a Super 8 version of the film, which is kind of weird, storyboards, alternative and deleted scenes, and an alternative ending. So you've got the European theatrical cut there and the extras disc. So there's a ton of material on this one. There's De Niro in a Hawaiian shirt. We have another book, New York there. And the essays in this are New York and the Battle for Martin Scorsese, sold by Bilger Ebiri. And that's it, the essay is the book. Interesting artwork there. And on the back underneath the card, we have Liza with a Z. Haven't seen this one for a while. I know I saw it maybe 20 years ago. It's been a little bit hard to find. I don't know whether it was music rights or whether the fact that it was a Martin Scorsese film that didn't hit with the audiences very much at the time. But one way or the other, fantastic box. And it's good to have complete versions of Scorsese movies. And getting one where it has a commentary by Scorsese is just the cherry on the cake. Now, the last one I got for you is a Gordon Parks film. Gordon Parks directed Shaft, among other things, and a really nice autobiographical movie called The Learning Tree. But this one's a 1976 movie about Huddie Ledbetter, a blues singer from the 1920s and 30s, who had an incredible life. He was in prison and chain gangs for a number of years for bar fights where he killed people. Became a very influential blues singer. Just an amazing life. And of course it is Leadbelly, starring Roger E. Mosley. It's also got Paul Benjamin, Madge Sinclair, Albert P. Hall, and Art Evans. This one surprised me when I rewatched it because it's a movie, one of those movies, and there are so many of them, that I saw on late night television back in the day, in black and white. And then suddenly I've got a Blu-ray release of it in my face, and I can reevaluate it. This movie is as much about the history of the times in which Huddie Ledbetter lived as it is about his music. He strikes up a friendship with Blind Lemon Jefferson, and they play together for a time. But Huddie Ledbetter was a character who was very fond of women, I'm very fond of booze. I'm very fond of music. And the booze is the thing, that took his career and his life into a dark path. Roger E. Mosley is fantastic in this. Later on, he went on to be the helicopter pilot in Magnum PI. But in this movie, there's a power to what he does. And Gordon Parks' direction is fantastic. There's a prolonged scene where Hootie Ledbetter escapes from a chain gang. And he's chased by men on horseback with rifles and bloodhounds and chased across the countryside. He ducks into a river to try to put the hounds off the scent, all that kind of stuff. And it's a really fraught scene. It's terrifying. You want this guy to escape. Even though he's guilty of the crimes he's been accused of, the brutality and the sadism and the racism of not only the chain gang and the prison system in Texas, but the culture across the South of America at the time, and some would argue to this day, really makes it an incredibly tense scene. Amazing film, amazingly underrated film. And you should see it. And by the way, Hootie Ledbetter is the first person to ever record the words "Get Woke" in 1938 in a song of his called The Scotchman Boys. There's a little spoken word bit at the end of that. You can find it on Spotify, where Hootie Ledbetter warns black Americans to get woke. So it ain't a new thing, being woke. It's keep your eyes and keep your head on a swivel and be careful and watch what you do, because they're out to get you. There's the back cover. There are some extras on this one. Leadbelly reclaiming fact from fiction, an interview with author filmmaker Sheila Curran Bernard from 2025. All the decisive moments, folk heroes in the cinema of Gordon Parks. A video essay by Daniel Kremer from 2025. I'm looking forward to watching that one. I watched the movie again, but I haven't watched the extras, because Gordon Parks, I think, is a filmmaker whose work really needs to be re-examined seriously, because The Learning Tree, I loved. I saw that one when I was a kid. It was about a young boy in the rural South growing up, a young boy of colour. And The Learning Tree had a profound effect on me as a kid. Really powerful film. I've got it now on my list of movies to find on physical media. Inside the box, we've got Roger E. Mosley. There's the back cover. There's the disc. And there he is playing music and singing to a young woman. One of the things I was thinking about when I was watching this movie is this has to be a movie that would have been one of the influences for Ryan Coogler's Sinners, because a lot of the juke joint scenes in this feel like they were an influence on Sinners. I don't have that for a fact, but I'm sure that Ryan Coogler is aware of this film, and the whole world of this film feels like the world of Sinners without the vampires. But Leadbelly, for me, is the hidden gem in this month's releases from Imprint. So thank you to Imprint for sending these. Fantastic range from the early 1970s to 1980. As I said, I was wrong about it being only 1970s. You got 2 Scorseses with incredible amounts of extras. You got a bunch of hidden gems here. It's a nice month for Imprint, and it's a nice month for me to have them to examine and to, in some cases, rewatch, and in other cases, to watch. So thank you very much for watching. All the usual stuff. Please subscribe if you haven't. It doesn't cost you anything. Give it a thumbs up if you think the video is any good. If you don't think it's any good, give it a thumbs down. Leave a comment, hit the notification bell. You can also support the channel by becoming either a channel member on YouTube or by becoming a patron for a couple of bucks at patreon.com/TerryTalksMovies. Next up, we've got the Wednesday video, and I've got a couple of thoughts about a couple of other films I've watched. Then, of course, we roll into Science Fiction Saturday once more. And I've also got another travel vlog on my other channel, Terry Travels, which I did yesterday, and it tired me the hell out. So if you're into that side of what I do, definitely watch that one. So until all of those things happen in the near future, watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Definitely check out Leadbelly. It was a marvelous little film. And I'll catch you next time.